So I remember the guy's name was Jim Brown. He's from Cuba City. I can picture the place yet today. And he's like, okay, so we went down there, and I thought this will be interesting. It was dry. So it had been like in 93, I think. Yeah, it had been 93 in June, and it was dry. I thought this will be really neat. Bunch of farmers out, all gonna piss and moan about how dry it is. Okay, we go there, and there's probably 20 people there. There wasn't an extension agent, or I was the only industry person there. All it was a bunch of farmers. I'm like, okay. And it was just unbelievable. We went through everything, and I'm like, this is really neat. Nobody complained about the weather. Everybody was upbeat. Got back, and we thought, this is pretty interesting. Got this lady going grazing, and I thought, that's kind of neat. That's, helped her out, went to some few other pasture walks, and my dad one day says, hey, I'm going to sell the cows. If you boys are interested, you can buy them. My brother's like, no, I've farmed. I'm not going to farm anymore. Okay. I said, well, I might be interested. If I could graze them, I'd do that. Okay. So I bought them and did that. And I just think it's interesting. I went to that first pasture walk. There wasn't an extension agent. There wasn't an industry person there. And here we are today. There's only one farmer in the group. But how things change. So this was all row crop, this whole farm was. My dad milked, I think I bought 35 cows from him. He milked here. It was about 20,000 pound herd average. Really pushed for production. And he made a good living here, I gotta be honest. We made money here. I didn't want anything to do with that, working all the time, doing that. So I seeded some pastures down, took the cows, kicked them out in pasture. Nice, big, framey Holsteins. Killed every one of them. Just through the regression. They didn't breed back. They couldn't handle being outside and stuff. So started buying all crossbred cattle. And seeded everything down. Did that. We were seasonal. Spring calving for the first 15 years we farmed it. Everything was seasonal calved in the spring. We switched to organic 16 years ago. I've been 16 years ago with 1st of October, so we've been organic for a while. 10 years ago I rented another farm 5 miles from here. It's got a freestall barn on it, about 200 acres, and we switched over and we do all fall calving now. We're not seasonal anymore. We breed for 2 months in the fall, but we keep all the stale cows and milk them through the summer. Everything here has been established. We don't keep permanent pastures. I got 2 permanent pastures, otherwise we reseed everything. When the pasture gets like it's not yielding decent, we till and reseed everything. Last spring I did buy a no-till drill. I'm going to start doing some no-till drilling this year. I was going to be all excited. I was going to show you how it worked. We never got to use it because of the wet spring, so I can't show you any of that. But we're going to start doing more of that. We're going to start doing some no-tilling, try to keep our pastures going a little bit more. There's only 15 cows here. We were milking both farms until this spring. There's an open-sided parlor here. We milked at both farms in the summer. We ran short of labor this spring, and we sold 1 herd of cows. We're cutting back. We're looking at getting out probably in 3 to 4 years, just because of the labor situation. It's hard to find full-time help, so it's just me here basically. I got 2 part-time milkers, so slowed down quite a bit. The pastures, way undergrazed. We're going to look at a bunch of pastures that are undergrazed. We just kept dry cows here this summer, and now we're calving. So right now everything's camped out by the barn. We used to calve out on pastures wherever they would be. I'm getting too old to carry calves through the mud and everything, so we're just calving everything right next to the barn now so we can get them up to the barn. This pasture was seeded about 5 years ago. This one's got red clover, was seeded with red clover, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I can't remember what we seeded. Is this perennial ryegrass, is that meadow fescue?
That's meadow fescue. Right?
Yep.
Yeah, the shiny.
Yep. So all this grass here is going to be meadow fescue, right? Yeah.
Looks like it.
Yeah, so that's what this was seeded with. I use quite a bit of meadow fescue. I know I have used perennial ryegrass in the past. Doesn't have the persistency. Same thing with the red clover. I'm not a big, I use red clover because it seeds easy. Problem is it doesn't stay, and then this one's not so bad. We'll walk over to the next pasture over and you'll see a lot of dead spots in the field. And when you have them dead spots, it means you don't have any dry matter. You know, the cows can't eat dirt. So that's the biggest thing is you got to make sure you got the soil covered with something. It's got to have some grass in it. Because when you get that die out and you have them bare spots, that's, you know, it's just, and that's an issue we've always had on this farm. And that's why I think the no-till drill will help us with that. Dr. Bricks was talking.
Do you know what do you have a seed tag or know what variety?
I have no idea.
Okay. What was the seed company? Do you remember?
I have no idea. I want to say, is there Dawn? Is that Dawn?
Dawn is tall fescue.
No, that wasn't tall fescue. No. I did buy a bunch of Dawn this year. Never planted it because I was told that was better. Now I listen to you. I think I got about a ton of that sitting in the shed.
I was the last
Unless
one.
they rename something else.
And I know I bought Dawn this year because I don't think, and that's tall fescue, right? Yeah.
That's my experience. Is Dawn has usually been
Tall.
That's been
Tall.
This I can't remember what this one was. I know this was meadow fescue. I remember now that you said that I did switch. They talked me into going a different fescue this year, and that's a tall fescue. It's not a meadow fescue, and so that should be different, right? They probably won't graze that as well. Well, you can go ahead and say. You know, I wouldn't be the first time it was
I can't say. They may or they may not. Some cattle will graze tall fescue.
Most won't, though, right?
The experience is that sometimes it won't, but again, they're always making improvements and they're selecting for greater palatability in tall fescue. You hope that it would grow.
Were you told it's barbless, the variety you just bought?
What was that?
Were you told it's barbless? Oh no.
I just buy stuff. I don't pay attention. I got so much stuff going on. It's just, you know, that's the problem with being spread too thin.
Is it here on this farm, the seed?
What?
Is your farm on this, here on the, is your seed on this farm?
No, it's not.
Okay.
It's not. It's at the other farm.
Les, did you include the Ladino in here, or is this just voluntary?
That's going to be voluntary. I think that's what we'll do is we'll make just a real short little trip around here. We'll walk across the road. I have a pasture. Now, I didn't graze it this year, but that piece of ground wasn't seeded. It was a cornfield, oh, God, I'm going to get the years wrong, probably 10 years ago, and I was busy. We had a bunch of stuff going on. I'm like, oh, there's some clover coming in here. I'm just going to graze this quick, and then we'll plow it up. I never did anything with it. And we'll go look at that one, and that's just all volunteer. But a lot of that's coming from never using herbicides for, there probably hasn't been a herbicide used on this farm 30 years, I'm guessing. And so you've got a lot of that seed bank there, and we haven't wrecked that seed bank. And you'll notice that a lot I've noticed that when you're driving around, the guys that are converting over to organics, you know, they had a real heavy row crop farm, and they convert over to organics. Well, the first couple of years, it's like, oh my God, they do such a great job. They don't have any weeds. Oh my, well, that's because they use Roundup for the last 20 years, and they've got that, you know, there's all that. They killed everything. And then when they go to seed a pasture, then all of a sudden it's like, well, you can just see the rows. Well, nothing else fills in. Well, here everything just, we've got such a seed bank here. Like I said, we haven't done anything on this farm as far as a herbicide, so there's so much volunteer.
That's a good renovation technique. Before you go organic, spray with Roundup.
I've
then
heard
go organic.
Well, I mean,
I've heard that said many times.
Yeah. No, I just have a question though. I was a little late from the porta potty.
Yeah.
Did you talk about where you had planted the oats yet, or you didn't?
where that's the next one over. We'll go look at that. We're
Awesome.
walking that
Okay.
one. Is there anything else anybody sees here I want to ask questions
Quick
on?
questions about weeds. Going organic, how do you address like thistles and like cockleburrs or perennial weeds that just have deep roots? How can you deal with those?
Are you talking in a pasture situation?
pasture,
You got a
yes.
clip.
Huh?
Clip.
You have like you clip the roots because.
Oh no, if you clip enough, like, now correct me, a cocklebur is a biennial, right?
Yep.
So if you cut it the first year and don't let it go to seed, it shouldn't come back, right?
Right.
Yeah, so that's the biggest thing.
about thistles?
Thistles, I don't know. Do this a lot. I mean, if you clip, it'll help a lot.
If you
clip.
electrocute them, will that bust up the.
I would
not
have
really.
no idea. I would just clip them. I mean, are you
They
talking?
keep coming back. This is a.
But I mean, now a lot of times this'll will happen is if you're overgrazing.
Yeah.
A lot of times that's where you'll notice. I know we have a pasture. Where is it here? Where the hell is it? There's one here that's got a lot of thistles. Oh, it's at the other farm. Excuse me. I overgraze that a lot, and you'll see a lot of thistles with overgrazing because you have so much. Once again, that comes back to the exposed ground.
Yeah.
If you've got exposed ground, you get all them weeds have a place to grow. That's when we seed. I use a lot of seed. It makes me feel better. I think mostly, but and I think it's just try to get something to grow.
Question about over at your dairy.
Yeah.
Do you figure about 3/4 of an acre per cow, or what is the?
Depends on how much you want to feed them.
Right.
I mean, that's a clean and simple. The old rule for me used
Or
to
what's
be
the old rule of thumb?
2 acres.
2 acres per animal.
If you want to be on a grass-based dairy,
Yep.
where you're just feeding, if not supplementing. At the other farm there, we're probably at not quite an acre a cow. Depends how many cows I'm in.
Right, right.
We're
I mean-
talk a little bit about feeding the dairy cow after lunch too, so we'll go over to Greg's gonna talk a little bit.
I guess that's where, I mean, it depends how much you want to supplement them.
Those are great
And
questions, so we're gonna-
right, and how much you're willing to overgraze. Because I don't know anybody that's, and like I said, I'm no expert, but anybody that's talking like that 3/4, half acre per cow, how you graze that and don't overgraze.
Yeah, you need a lot more.
I mean, because the
You have to
problem you
supplement
have,
a lot more
because
feed.
everybody says, well, supplement. That's great, but cows want to eat grass. So as soon as you turn them out there, they're going to eat. I don't care if you fed them before. If you turn them on grass, they're going to eat. And so I don't know how you restrict them from not overgrazing. I'm asking you the question.
That's pretty short on feed if you're down to a half or 3/4 of a
Right,
acre of
right,
pasture per
yeah.
cow. That's
Because I don't know how you get them not to
I
overgraze.
don't know how you avoid overgrazing
Yep.
in that
Yep.
case too.
Unless you put your finger on
Yeah,
it
guys, Greg
by
said,
how much you want to feed them, because basically the cow needs 7 to 8 tons of forage per year.
Okay,
Each cow
that's a
does.
good number. Yep.
So 7 to 8 tons of forage. So what's your yield on your pasture? If it's good yielding hayfield, we're in the 5-6 ton range up here. So, I mean, the best alfalfas are 8 to 10, right? I mean,
That would be an exceptional.
That would be
in
an
the
exception,
western pivots where
and
you're
that's
cutting it.
harvesting every bit of it.
yeah.
And when you graze, you're not harvesting every bit of it. You're going to have
When
spots.
you overgraze, what are you getting? Are you even getting 1 ton, 2 ton?
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
What are you getting?
Yeah.
I mean, our best graders, what are they getting? 5, 6? What do you think, Mark? You getting more than that? Tons per acre on the
Yeah,
pasture?
5-6 would be a very
That-
good yield.
That would be
So
a
you need,
really good,
you know,
well-managed
the best
pasture,
soil,
right?
The best
Really
grazer, you
yeah.
need an acre and a half,
And another part of that, though, is that, when you talk about dry matter yields on harvested forages, that doesn't all go in the cow either.
No,
There's
no.
still some waste there.
Yep. That's very true. Yep. There's shrink and there's.
Yep.
I mean, I've actually,
For our last workshop, we talked about dry matter intake, and it was the consensus that we should calculate about 5% of an animal's body weight for what they would intake, trample on, and
Well, that's a good number. I never thought about that, but yeah, everybody says 2%, but you got all the rest of them variables that they don't.
yeah. So
I've been doing some clipping, and I can see anywhere from 2 to 3 tons per acre up to 5 tons. It's possible to get 5 tons off pasture.
Off a good, really well-established, well-managed.
Well-managed.
It's got to be well-managed too. That's, and to perfectly honest with you, this would be a very mismanaged pasture right here. This is not the way. If you're going to graze, this is not the way to do it right here.
How do you measure yield? You're talking about yield on a pasture setting.
Nobody brought a pasture
How
stick,
much
did
time do
they?
you
they're
have?
out there.
I never seen them sitting
Are
there.
there that many different? you weigh the poo and back out of it.
Well, the best way is to use a hoop with some clippers and just go graze. Take the yield before they go in the pasture and after to know how much they ate, and that's what the pasture produces every time they go in. And then dry it down and then measure the yield that way.
We're going to keep walking because he wanted to show us the oats too.
Okay.
But I think we'll talk more if you want to talk more about that. There's also lots of resources because that was our last workshop. Come around for Les here. He's going to tell you about this.
Okay, this was seeded this spring. Barley for a cover crop. Made that. should have been, actually this should have been made again. Problem is it's too wet. Right up here is high, but you get down there, it's gonna cut roots in the field. Not sure what we're gonna do this. I'm not gonna graze it because dry cows and the alfalfa, I don't wanna deal with the milk fever. So I'm not sure what we're gonna do with this yet. This was seeded with 12 pounds of alfalfa and 3 pounds of fescue. I don't see any fescue, but perfectly honest, I haven't.
About when did you put the seed in the ground?
This would have been seeded the end of May.
How much barley did you put out here?
Bushel the acre is all. I just put enough for a cover crop. I'm not worried about making a crop off it. We made it for baleage, for dry cow feed. Like I said, any other year I would have harvested this, and then I never graze new seed, to be perfectly honest with you. I don't like, on this ground, like right now, I'm amazed how dry this is. I just don't like the hoof action on my new seeding. I'm afraid about damaging. What are we looking at there, Brian?
I was wondering if this was kosher. What kind of weed is this?
I
think it might be kosher. I thought that's what it was.
Is it, what is it?
Kosher. Which is, it's in the is it nightshade family or?
So, it's a pigweed? That wouldn't surprise me.
Maybe it is.
I could be wrong on that too, don't quote me.
Well, we have pigweed.
Well, yeah, we got all sorts of weed.
We have smart
We're on an
weed.
organic farm.
We have lamb's quarter.
Yep, we got, like I said, I don't know what we're gonna do with this yet. It should be made.
You don't think you'll still get a chance to cut it?
I hope not. I was hoping
Well,
it
then
wouldn't be
you're
this
just gonna leave
fall.
it.
What?
Then you're just going to leave it.
Probably gonna leave it.
Yeah.
I'd probably leave it. I don't know. Well, I gotta wait till it freezes before I can make it. And then by that time, I'm not a big fan of making frozen.
So the
feed.
goal was to have, you took the oats off,
And then we would have made hay off at once.
barley off.
Yep, and then we would have made hay off
Yep,
it.
yep.
But we didn't because it was wet. We never. This is the first time I've looked at this in about 3 weeks.
So, and then you would have taken hay off, but.
And then we wouldn't graze till next spring. This would be
Right.
a grazing crop next
Right,
spring.
but the grasses didn't come up as good as you.
No, I can't see any grass.
Yeah.
So have you done many, so you were intending to graze this next year?
Yes, it's been a great.
So have you done a lot of this 12 pounds of alfalfa
Yes,
as a
yes,
grazing mix?
yes. And then in about 3 years it's dead. And then that's where I think the no-till drill coming back in and no-tilling some grasses and trying to build my sod that way.
So then this spring, this is just all going to be dead.
Yeah,
dead
it's going to be a
tops.
total disaster.
So they'll will they dig down and get the good stuff in?
But once it'll green up through that.
Oh, just go fast up.
What would you do with this? Would you worry about harvesting this, or can I leave this? Yes, I'm talking to you again.
Yeah, I figured you were.
Alfalfa overwinters pretty well with this.
Question that I knew was directed at me. What do you want to do with this?
I don't want to do anything with it.
Till next year.
Till next year.
Yeah. Do you think I can leave it and it'll be fine, or do I need to harvest this?
If you leave it, it'll be fine. You're
Good.
not going to hurt the alfalfa.
That's all I'm worried about.
I think it.
Alfalfa will be fine. The leaves will fall off it.
Yeah.
All the
Yeah, it's just gonna-
carbohydrates will go to the roots. It'll
Yep.
be fine.
Yeah, and that's I guess the reason I don't want to harvest. I know it's wet in the bottom of that field, and I want to root up the bottom of that field.
Okay.
That's why my biggest. Otherwise, I would have harvested it.
Yeah. Okay.
I would think that it'd be good insurance to keep the alfalfa vigorous and strong.
What's the? Was this a pure alfalfa?
No, there's supposed to have been. There should have been like 3 or 4 pounds of ryegrass, not ryegrass, fescue in here, but I don't see any fescue at all.
Okay. Well, there's a little bit of grass I see down the bottom there, but
Oh yeah, here's some grass. He took the barley off in the
Yep.
beginning.
Oh,
Barley.
okay.
Yeah.
I took the barley off, and then
We found some grass.
great, I got one plant,
What was the rate of barley that you used?
about a bushel.
Okay.
Just enough for a cover crop. Not worried about harvesting it for. I just harvest it for dry cow feed. It doesn't. You know, that's.
When was the seeding date?
End of May.
Okay.
Yeah.
and did you do anything to it since then?
No, I made the barley off. I haven't touched it. I guess I haven't looked at perfect count. This is the first time I probably looked at it in 3-4 weeks.
General question on organic. Is there enough of a premium on organic versus standard milk to make it money?
Depends how much money you want to make.
Or at least not
I mean, it's all
making your
relevant to
bills
everything.
plus a little
I
to
mean,
eat.
it all depends on what you can do and what you can't do. I mean, my brother was organic. He quit 2 years ago, whatever, and he went back conventional and buying all of his feed, and he's making more money now than he was when he was organic. But he's milking a lot more cows. They were limited on their pasture acres, and so they went back and they're just buying their feed now. And they're milking, I don't know how many cows, but they're milking a lot more cows.
We often talk in our school about it depends on what kind of manager you are and what you're dealt with.
And what your goals are. See, now this right here's another, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying that it's not necessarily just the difference of conventional versus organic. There's a lot more to it.
It's
how you're willing
there's
to
a
manage.
lifestyle component.
Yeah. So, how you're willing to manage, but yeah.
Now, right here is another, all this bare ground.
Yeah.
I mean, that's,
Just have a
no, like I said, now look at that, that's horrible.
seeding problem when you seeded that looks like what you may have had is that you had a spot where the seed didn't come up very well.
Yeah, being wet this year, I'm sure if we walk the whole field, we're going to find a lot of spots like that just didn't. I'm sure I don't have the seeding rate here because I'm sure we lost plants with all the rain we had.
Yeah.
It was really wet. I mean, I'm sure there was times where you couldn't even walk out here when we got so much rain. Like, I'm amazed it's this dry right now, I gotta be honest. But this is what I was talking about before, is when you have bare ground like that, there's no dry matter right there. When that cow puts her nose down right there, she's gonna eat absolutely nothing.
You talked about your seed bank. You don't think there's going to be anything show up there next spring?
I hope so.
Well, I think there will be. I mean, it wouldn't this year because you got all this cover here.
Yeah.
What about just coming out early and drilling something in?
That's what I'm thinking.
Or, could you frost seed something late this fall?
I'm not a big frost feeder believer, I gotta be honest.
I bet it would work on here. Do it in deer season. Oh, wait, you might be busy in deer season. Do it the week before.
So was this drilled or tilled?
Drilled. No, this was tilled. I mean, worked. Everything was, worked up.
Full
And then,
tillage.
and then we.
What was your seeding rate of alfalfa?
I think it was like we usually go at 12 to 15 pounds.
So at that rate, and this is a new seeding.
Yes.
There's an awful lot of bare ground everywhere through this field.
Yeah.
So that doesn't surprise me. You must have had some establishment issues. That's the only thing. And moisture.
Right. And that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
That's what I think we lost a lot of plants with all the wet we had.
Because at that seeding rate, you shouldn't have any.
on your rows.
You shouldn't have any seed.
7.5, I believe. Yeah, there's a lot of. That's why I
There's
said,
a lot of
and
bare
that's
ground, no matter where you walk or where you look.
yeah. There's a lot of bare ground. That's what my point was.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably what I'm going to do is spring come back and because I could even come back in spring yet and put alfalfa in because don't you have a
Probably
12?
Probably could put. You want
I don't want to hear a probably. I want to hear a yes or no answer out of you.
Probably. I just want to be aware of time too. You have one more field you want to take?
Yeah,
us to?
we'll just walk.
So if we want to, if there's a wrap-up question here, but we should get there before lunch. So
Yes, it's very
is there
important.
any-
So much everybody came
any other
for it.
questions?
You got the pH on this farm up there pretty well?
Yes, this is all that's 6.5 plus. So
So quick question. I mean, you see a lot of weeds in here. When
Yeah.
the cat, if you bale this and you feed it, I've heard that the cows are particularly fussy when it comes to legumes and other grass varieties. Will they just spit out the weed part and keep eating for good stuff, or what do
it all
they do?
depends on what the weeds are. I mean, if there's ragweed in here, that pigweed, no, they aren't going to eat that. I mean,
They'll
They're great
just pick
yeah,
out the
they'll
flavor.
sort what they want, or
If they're at the bunk and they're eating hay, if this was dried down as hay, they'll sort out the stuff they don't want.
yeah.
Let's just spit it out.
or they're going to limit their intakes.
That too.
What depends if it's wet baleage too. If you had wet baleage, they'll eat a lot of weeds.
They'll eat a lot more weeds.
They'll
It's
eat a lot
palatable.
more stuff.
Yep,
than
yep, yep,
wet
yep.
baleage.
If you're making them eat it.
Fermented.
If there's cow syrup on top.
Yeah. Let's let's just walk across the road quick,
Okay.
and then I'll,
So you say it was never seeded, so how many years have you used this as pasture then?
this is got to be 12. What is that?
I think that's ryegrass. Ryegrass and meadow fescue are
Really hard to tell apart until you get a heat set.
He thought maybe festivalium, but
It could be that too, because festivalium looks.
It was probably 12 years ago. This has been. It was a cornfield, and then we just. It was greened up a little bit in the spring, and anytime anything's green, I'll graze it. You know, it's like get them out there, free milk. It's great. And it just I didn't get back to it right away, and I'm like came back out here. I'm like, there's enough here. We'll graze it one more time, and it just evolved into this.
Huh.
You know,
So
Who
12
said
years. That's pretty
festivalium?
good. Festivalium?
Somebody say festivalium?
Over there.
Yeah, I think probably right. Here's ryegrass, thinner blade.
Yep.
Yep.
And there's, this is, of course, we're looking at the best spot because there's a water tank. So this is kind of where they would hang out. So they're going to look out at this. As the farther you get that way, the worse it's going to be because there's not as much nutrients.
And there's lots of orchard grass in here too.
Yeah, it's just, and this is this is kind of like the old theory. They used to say back the years ago, it's like, you just didn't worry about anything. Just whatever grew was going to be the best. And which I don't buy into at all. But this is one of those
You get what you managed for.
Yeah,
so
yeah. And so this, is one of those cases where it worked out really well. And once again, there should be a fence around this, and the cows should be out here. But I deal with what we.
How long has this one been established?
12 years about. Yeah, and this was not established. This is just whatever came voluntarily.
This was the voluntary.
Yep. Yeah. So, anybody else got any questions?
When was it last grazed?
Oh, this has probably been, actually this wasn't, I made hay off this, I think, in July. So,
Nothing since then.
no, July or August, I don't remember. So it's been a while.
Les, you said this is a better grazing farm. You didn't really say why. Why is it?
It's higher, you can get everywhere pretty much.
It's better drained?
It's better drained.
Okay.
The biggest limiting factor on this farm is that creek eliminates how far I can go.
Oh, you can't
You
go
know,
beyond it.
I can, but it's just a total pain in the ass.
Yeah.
And it's just, when the older you get, the less pain in the asses you like to deal with.
Now, is this the elevation that's good here, or is it the drainage, or is it tiled? Or
No, it's not tile, it's just because we have fall and the water can get away. And it is a little better ground too. I think there's some Roselleville soil here, I remember from when you guys did the soil.
Gale.
Yeah, yeah, so it's
Which is pretty naturally well drained.
yeah. So that's, yeah, like I said, it's better that way. The milking facility isn't nice. There's always a compromise. I don't care what you do in life. There's always a compromise. You got to compromise this way or that way, and you can do what works best for you.
So his other farm is probably mainly a Vesper,
Yeah, it's a Vesper loan.
and
Yep.
so it's 0 to 2% slope. It's poorly drained.
Very poorly drained.
Yep.
Grows
So
good
he's-
grass.
He said some of it's tiled, but it's an old tile system.
Yep, it's an old tile system, and even that, the only reason that's nice, there's a milking facility there, and that's why it's nicer.
There's not a lot of soil in our county here. There's just a little spot here
Yeah,
that's
like this. Like I said, this is very good soil. I wish I had a different milking facility. I'd probably do something different, or if I was younger and things didn't bother me as much. When I built the parlor here, it was great. I mean, I thought I had the world by the ass because we milked a pile of cows and just dealt with what it had to give you, and it was great. And the older you get, it's like, this sucks.
How many cows did you have here when you were at your max?
Probably 120,
Okay.
100, I don't know, 100. We always had, when my wife's been ill for the last year or so, when my wife and I farmed together, we always had two farms. And we got along better that way. She milked at one farm and I milked at the other farm. She did things her way and I did things the right way.
And when you had 120 cows, they were grazing over here too?
Yep, we grazed here. We grazed, it was a mile up the road.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we were spread out. We'd
Okay.
go everywhere.
Okay.
I mean, I had neighbors had some land north of here about a half mile. They didn't use one year. It was fallow and I'm like, you're going to use that? And he's like, well, no, we're going to get to it. I'm like, you mind if I put a fence around it? And actually what I did, don't tell anybody this, do not print this, is I took a piece of baler twine and put around it, and used it twice, and grazed it twice, and was free milk.
Baler twine instead of.
Yeah, because it's a psychological thing. They didn't know. They thought it was hot.
How did you water those cows that far away?
Didn't. Just brought 'em
Just at
back.
milking time.
Just that milking time.
Good question, and that's because I don't know the beast that well. How easy is it for you to get those cows to move where you want them to different places? Because they do have.
They know there's grass at the other end. I tell you, the worst mistake a beginning grazer can do is you move your cows every 12 hours, and then one time you come out and it's like, you know what, there's still a lot of grass here. They'll be all right. I'll just put them back here again. No, they'll know that, hey, we came out, we were here, Ray. We want to be there because we ate this already. It doesn't matter if there's a ton of grass left here. They know they need new grass. You could give them 10 feet and they'd be happy. But if you don't move that fence, they're pissed right off at the world.
So just dropping the electrical line, they'll go for the.
Yeah,
go
they
for
know.
the
They know. You know, they got to have new grass every 12 hours. And if you don't do it that way, they're probably fine. But if you do it regular that way and then don't one time,
They'll try to move themselves.
oh yeah.
Are they here? Depending on what you use to move them, if you use a four-wheeler.
Yeah, they know, and they know. And dairy cows are so much easier because you're handling them every day, twice a day. You know, they know what's coming up.
What species mix did you like the best over the years on your wet farm that was poorly drained?
It's been a battle over there, I'll be honest with you. That's why I was asking him the questions, because that's why I bought the no-till drill for us, just for that farm. It's hard to keep it. We have part of the problem, it comes back to your question about overgrazing. We overgraze that farm because we have too many. We only got, I think there's 70 acres, 80 acres of pasture there. We run 100, 120 cows, and we don't have the tall species there. We have a lot of, because we overgraze, you have a lot of that white clover and stuff. We don't get the yield, and so that's where that question came
It's
from.
just cycles.
Yep, it really is.
Yep.
And the older you get, the more you hate vicious cycles.
Quick question on your electrical line. You use solar on those, or it's
No.
all plug and play?
Plug in, and these over here will run a battery if we do anything. I got to be honest. On my farm, if half the fence works half the time, I'm really doing good. Because fencing on here has always been an issue with me. So
So the cows, are they like almost conditioned at some point where they don't want to touch it because they've been burnt? Or?
yeah. But then, well, you're running that thing again where you think you know, and then the cows know that fence isn't working, so then they'll get out. So then you got to go and fix the fence, make sure it's hot, so they know it's hot again. Then you're good for a while. But once they know that fence isn't working, they're out. They can figure it out. All it takes is one of them to figure it out, and they're like, hey.
Putting good feed in front of them, though, they're satisfied. They won't even challenge the
That's
string.
very
That's-
fun.
that's the
It's
trick.
this time of year is when you run into problems. When you want to graze everything, you try to, yeah, and that fence isn't working, they're going to know right away. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. In the spring, you got grass in front of them. You can use baler twine to keep them in.
We have time for another question or two if there's any more questions about the pasture or go back to lunch now.
So what are you doing now, Les? I didn't quite catch it. Are you, you said something about fall seasonal. and
Yes,
said
we
something about-
fall freshen everything.
Now, how many cows?
We got about 120 cows. Yes. We don't get everything bred back though. We'll milk stale cows. We milk stale cows through, and now we'll start getting rid of them cows.
What do you supplement with anything, or you just you all forage, or do you?
No, we feed grain. Yeah.
Like how many pounds per property?
Right now I think we're at about 5 pounds, 6 pounds. We're probably gonna have to up that. We didn't get any corn in this year. We won't have any corn silage, so we're probably gonna have to up that a little bit. I'm not sure what we're gonna do yet.
Feeding them with small grain or corn?
Corn.
Do you save any animals for hamburger market?
No. I hate dealing with the public. I'm not dealing with that. Let somebody else do that.
Well, thanks, Les. Yeah, when we go back, please bring your chair in to the table and lunch is out so
Perfect.
we can go through the line. I think the plates are over by the coffee because you didn't have enough room on the table. So
That's fine.
go back through. There's water in the big cooler and I have some iced tea I'm going to bring out. And then, yeah, I think we'll just converse and hang out. And then after lunch, we have 2 more speakers, another trip out into the pasture for soil health. So stick around for that. And thank you, Wes, for the tour.
Awesome.
Yeah.